Alright, time to do another Cardfight Vanguard ranking, this time on my favorite anime ride lines based on both its design and playstyle. And yes, they had to make an anime appearance to qualify for this list, and I don't mean cameos. There are some decks with cameos, and I'm not counting those. They have to be showing up for an actual full fight for this to count. And I'm not going to do this based on characters, because that's going to be a little bit of a bias. It's going to be more so on the design and playstyle of every ride line that showed up in the anime. And I'm going to be ranking them based on the top 5 because there's about 15 ride lines that showed up in the anime that actually had a full fight. And of course, this is all based on my opinion and what I personally like as my playstyle. So go ahead and rank down your opinions down below on how you would rank the ride lines. There will be multiple in the same rankings because there's only going to be top 5 and some of them will have a very similar playstyle that's just hard to decide. So there will be multiple in the same ranking in this list. But anyway, let's begin. On the bottom of my list, which is number 5, I am putting both Blitz and Blue Death Star as the same ranking in number 5. Why? Because both of them have a very similar play style and both of them are pretty cool in concept. Not as cool as the other ride lines in the list in my opinion, but this one has a very cool concept and play style that I just kind of like them both kind of equally. Both of them use set orders for their skills, and this is something I really love about both of these decks. Of course, being Brandgate, they use set orders, but very uniquely for Brandgate, they use their set orders for their skills. And that's one thing I really like about both of these decks. In the Blitz Welstra case, I really like Welstra's staff, that being animals for a staff, while operating a big giant mobile fortress. I just love that. As for Blue Death Star, it's just a mecha thing. I just like how Zero Period is piloting Avangarta. So this one is just cooler, but because of its style of the set orders being the skills, basically, rather than being like mobile weapons like Blitz, I kind of just like them both equally and it's just hard to decide. But overall, very similar in concept, just the staffing crew. And then to number 4, I'm putting both Drajuled and Astroia in this list, mainly because both of them have a very similar concept of soul blasting stuff. Overall, I already like the dark state concept of soul charging stuff, but taking advantage of the soul charging is also something I really like. In both Drajuled and Astroia's case, they use it for soul blasting to do some stuff. In Drajuled, each soul blasted grade counts as a gem, and I love that concept. And Drajuled is just cool being a jewel dragon, while Astroia being a nice looking witch that focuses on soul blasting triggers for sorcery. Mainly crits, but I love that you can still use the other triggers as well. So both in many ways have very similar concept, except that Drajuled has the different grades while Astroia focuses on mainly criticals but could be any trigger basically. And also I'm a sucker for dragons, so Drajuled was going to take this list, but because of Astroia not being completely all witches but also beasts as her support, I kind of just like Astroia as well for this purpose. Number 3, we got Zorga with Alchemagic. Not only that Zorga looks cool being a necromancer that is also undead, and I love his design, but the playstyle of Zorga is also something I really love and I really wish a lot more decks do of. This one focusing heavily on orders, and I love the fact that Zorga makes a twist on that, combining 2 different orders to create an Alchemagic. Basically, doing alchemy, combining 2 different spells into one. And that's what I love about Zorga. Not only that he's a necromancer that is also undead, but he also manipulates magic, and I just love it. You could even emphasize that with his skills with order cards. And to me, this is one of the more unique decks because of it, because if you look more at D-Series right now, a lot of decks doesn't focus around using order cards. Yes, there's Brandgate that plays around set orders, but most of them don't really do much in comparison to Zorga, where any order that gets released basically powers up the deck. And Zorga is the only one that I can think on top of my head that focuses around a normal order and also combining other normal orders on top of it. I just love Zorga for this reason, and its design of its creepiness is also another reason why I rank it this high. For my number 2, there's going to be 3 on this list, and because they all look cool and they play very similarly, that being Nirvana with Jiva along with Uper, basically the 2 main dress decks, or 3. In all 3 cases, they're all about changing forms for a unit. Youthberg is all about changing forms with the Vanguard based on the element, and Youthberg's design and the idea of Youthberg is also awesome, that being a rebel wearing black armor instead of light theme armor like many good guys would do, but Youthberg decides to wear black while also covering his face and wearing that handkerchief representing his followers. And of course, Youthberg's idea of changing forms of himself. I just love like when he changes form, his eye glows into a specific color, and then he changes based on whatever element that he wants to go to. And that's why I really love Youthberg, especially when all 3 forms combine into one where his mask is off. Now when it comes to Nirvana, everything starts with the Trickstar, this one supporting unit that goes with Nirvana. And I really love that Nirvana is basically a god creature basically, or a newborn god, with Trickstar basically just following it around, and it's from another world. And just like Youthberg, this one changes forms, in this case Verena. And what I love about the original OverDress states are the fact that you can overdress on top of overdress, meaning that it can evolve even further. Something that Jiva and the cross overdress is lacking. I like the concept of cross overdress, that being a prayer dragon combining with Trickstar to become one new Verena, or being an armor for Verena, but that's all it was. And Straw Verena was the only unique cross overdress Verena, that being combined with multiple prayer dragons. The other Verenas are only combined with one prayer dragon, which is why this one is only considered equal to regular overdress Verena, because regular overdress Verena has overdress on top of overdress, that being further evolution. That's why those 2 are pretty equal to me, while Youthberg is also pretty equal to me because this one is revolving around temporary changing forms with the Vanguard. Very similar in concept into the Trickstar part, except Trickstar is permanent, but then this one is temporary. And I love that it involves the Vanguard here compared to many other decks. Kind of like drag shifting a bit. But overall, all 3 have very similar concept and are up and down on which one can be cooler, but I can say all 3 are kind of equal. And now for some honorable mentions before hitting number 1. So first off, we got Magnolia. I like Magnolia mainly because it's a beast king that has ferocious animals attacking you, rather than basically supporting each other, aka no boosting. Focusing on back row attackers basically. That's why I kind of like Magnolia. But of course the playstyle could basically be taken by any other deck as well, so it's not the most unique thing, but I do kind of just like the idea of it. Now for Bastion, I love the design, and the playstyle of focusing on grade 3s is awesome and all, but the fact that it doesn't really do much other than very similar to many other decks is why it's kind of lower on the list. It's just unique for its focus on grade 3s. And also awesome looking. And finally, Griffle Gila, or the Griffle Seed. Yes, I am counting this one even though technically it's not a ride line, but this one is very unique that one, you don't ride, it's basically a seed growing into the dragon tree, and that's the unique part of it, and Griffle Gila itself is awesome. But other than that, it's basically a stall deck. And that's the only thing that made it not hit the list. If it does a lot more unique stuff in it, I probably would put this on the list, but the fact that it doesn't really do anything but stall until you activate your main stuff to end the game is why this one is just in honorable mentions and didn't make it to the list. But the style of the ride line I like. It's basically a seed hatching into a dragon tree. And then to number 1, it is Seal Blaze. I love Seal Blaze because this one is in particular a maiden that has dragon power, that has blue flames, so that itself was already awesome. Her followers are all dragons basically, with her main support being Trick Moon, which is the opposite of Trickstar. And I love how the idea of her is basically glowing in the dark. And then another thing I really love is her playstyle with her weapons. Basically just specialty orders that become weapons for your Vanguard, similar to something like a Maximum Summon or Legion. And I love that about Basagra as well. Her playstyle revolves around the weapons, and depending on what weapon, she gets stronger, which makes her very unique in a way, even though Silhouette took it later. But besides the point, she was kind of the original one that uses weapons for her main mechanic that is also an order card, while also having a cool design. Having blue flames and being a waifu maiden is also nice, and having a partner in crime. That is also very awesome because that one can also evolve. So in my opinion, the coolest ride line of all the anime ride lines in concept. It's obviously not the best, but the style wise is just cool. So that's it for my rankings on my favorite anime based ride lines. What do you guys think of them? And how would you rank them? I just gave you my list, so go ahead and give me yours. And remember, this is all based on my opinion, so of course you can always have your opinion as well. But overall, these are my personal favorite ride lines, and overall OverDress, WillDress just has a lot of cool decks. And let's just say I build a lot of them. There's a lot of cool concepts. Some of them in the early phase were okay. Of course, the later phase when WillDress happened is where the most of the awesome stuff really happened to me. And kind of unfortunate that during that time, things got very expensive. But other than that, that's it for this, and see you all next time.